Yo, what's up guys, Insane Game Freak here to bring you another nostalgia rush. This is on a show that ironically is once again kind of part of that newer generation of shows that were good, kind of like in the Danny Phantom generation, meaning it was good, but it didn't last too long and kind of just fucking died. But I still think it was good enough to be put into the nostalgia rush section of things, and I know a lot of you want me to get to the older shows. I am, but I feel like this show has a little bit more priority because people probably kind of remember this because it's kind of new-ish to at least my generation anyway. But that's if you were still watching Cartoon Network during that era. Anyways, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Let's go. Raw! So, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends premise was actually pretty interesting because the way they did the premise, or even the... Well, the thing is, they kind of did like an hour movie to set it up, and then like you actually got the show after it. But the general idea of the movie is that Mac, I believe, is 10, and he has his imaginary friend named Bloo, which is like a blue blob. He's not like a blob, but he's like a blue... Yeah, that's what it's right. He's a blue blob that has arms, but doesn't have any fingers and doesn't have feet. He just kind of slides across the ground. At least that's what it would look like the way when they say he's walking. Anyways, he has this imaginary friend, and it's like, oh, you're getting too old to have an imaginary friend. You need to get rid of him. In this universe, imaginary friends don't just disappear when you stop caring about them. I think, if I remember right, in Foster's Home, it was kind of like you make imaginary friends and they become a part of the society. Either you get rid of it, or you do what Mac ends up doing, which is finding this foster home for imaginary friends. The problem is he didn't really want to give up Bloo, so he kind of made the agreement with the owner of the place to essentially have this deal where it's like as long as you keep coming back every day to visit Bloo, then he won't be put up for adoption and he'll have somewhere to stay. That's the basic premise, and pretty much Foster's Home is just him, you know, interacting with all these different types of imaginary friends and just kind of random wacky adventures. But the thing about it I liked so much, and I'm not gonna lie, the show after I think the second season, no, it was like after the first season they kind of changed the dynamic to a point in which a lot of fans were just kind of like But the first season, in the 1 hour like I guess you could call it pilot movie, had this whole thing where Mac and Bloo were best buddies, and Mac was kind of like, you know, just a chilled out 10-year-old, and Bloo was kind of like his wisecracking best friend. And when you're first introduced to the whole Foster's Home, you get introduced to a cast of characters, but the ones we really need to talk about, I believe, is Wilt, Eduardo, Coco, Frankie, Mr. Harrington, and for some reason Frankie's grandmother, who I don't remember her actual name. I think they just called her Mrs. Foster because technically she is Frankie's grandmother. But I don't remember we ever found out her first name. It's been a minute. That was your main group. Frankie is, like, as I said, Mrs. Foster's granddaughter, who pretty much does all the cooking, cleaning. Pretty much she's like the house lady of the area. And granted, the house is huge. The house is cool and huge and weird. There's a whole bunch of different types of imaginary friends. It was kind of cool just because I liked the concept of the way the show was built upon. Mr. Harrington was like, you know, the funny thing is, for those who don't know, my favorite animals are rabbits. I love rabbits to death. Mr. Harrington is a dick. He's one of those, it's all about the rules and all about order and structure and shit. And Frankie just kind of does things in her own way, but still gets the job that she needs to do done. The only thing that kind of, but the funny thing is that Mr. Harrington is actually Mrs. Foster's imaginary friend. And the cool thing about the pilot was the fact that, you know, a lot of kids don't say they want to keep, you know, in touch with their imaginary friends and then just stop caring because they grow up. That was the whole kind of thing about that agreement. The agreement originally wasn't going to work because they don't believe the kids would just stick to it and, you know, stay dedicated to their imaginary friend. And Mac's whole situation was also caused a lot of aggravation because his older brother Terrence wanted to be a dick. By the way, Terrence, I believe, is voiced by Dill Pickles, voice actor or actress. I think it's a girl, actually, voice actress, which I found hilarious considering. Because Terrence is like one of those stereotypical older brothers. He's like a dick, but he's dumb as hell. And you have, obviously, you have your evil imaginary friends. The only one that comes to mind on the top of my head, she's like, obviously she's a play off of Picasso's like painting, the one with the face all fucked up and everything. I think her name is Duchess. I don't remember her name off the top of my head clearly, but I think her name is Duchess. She's ugly, but she's self-entitled, and no one likes her. even into the show, no one likes her because she's a dick. Well, she's a bitch, I guess. I guess bitch would be the better word since she is a female. But the point I'm trying to make is that I like the concept and I like the pilot to me was really fucking good. For a pilot for a show that we had never seen before, that pilot would work so motherfucking well. And then we get into the characters like Welt and Coco and Eduardo. Eduardo is like the Spanish, he has kind of like that lion from the Wizard of Oz type feel. He's this big, strong, bull-looking monster who speaks Spanish, but it's like a coward. Coco is insane and apparently also suffers from Pokemon syndrome because she can only say her name. Which then brings up the question, is her name really Coco or did they just call her Coco because that's all she can fucking say? Will, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a movie kind of revolving around his whole backstory. They actually delve into Will's backstory and why the way he does, because Will is like this super nice, tall, red guy. I don't know how to describe. It's really hard to describe Will. But the thing about Will that's weird is that his arm is all messed up here, and his eye, and one of his eyes, I think, is either doesn't work or is just wonky. And it like Wilt looks like he's been through some shit, but they never really addressed it until like the movie. And I don't want to spoil it because the movie was good, except for the thing that aggravates me about the later seasons of this show. The first season was cool. I enjoyed the characters and I liked everything. I like how everything that came together. You had different types of episodes. Like I think the few famous ones I remember off the top of the head, at least in the first season, was the introduction of Goo. I'll get into that in a second. Yeah, Goo's introduction when they first went to the mall, and when Blue got sick. And when Blue gets sick, apparently he turns white, so he legitimately looks like a ghost. Also, that stupid, I think one of my favorite episodes was the Coming to Dinner one, where Blue had like dragged Mac all the way up to the top of the building just to show them this ridiculous, like Blue described it in such a ridiculous way of how you can see Mac's house from Foster's home. But he didn't just see like, oh, you could see it. No, he was like, you had to look at the edge of the corner of the billboard, the side of that roof, to the left of that donut stand, and then up through the hole, and then you can see Mac's apartment, and you're just kind of like, why, what? And the entire episode is them trying to fight their ways downstairs because apparently Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends does not work by the conventions of a normal stairs. Like they were walking down the stairs, and Mac was like, wait a minute, we're in the same hallway we were in a minute ago. And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, well, we went down. It's like, I know, we went down. It was so ridiculous. It was just so funny. And then you had this whole conspiracy, these conspiracy imaginary friends were like, they were all food, and it was like, yo, you guys ain't going down to dinner? No, we ain't going down to dinner. What kind? So you're sick, man. Eating one of our own because they're like imaginary chicken. And I like the premise behind why some of these imaginary friends were brought up. Like, for the food, it was like, we were dreamed up by a whole bunch of hungry kids in fat camp. But luckily, Foster's got us out just in time. Like, that chicken had seen some shit, yo. Oh, Christ. Goo, which I need to go ahead and address. Goo is kind of one of those, like, well-known side characters. I'm not going to say she doesn't show up often, but she kind of, like, she doesn't show up often enough to me. Like, she's introduced. You get, like, a few episodes where she's around. I do like Goo's whole gimmick, though. She's, like, this spazzy little kid. I also like the fact that she's black. I'm sorry, as a black person, I'm going to do that. I apologize. I know it seems stupid, but I'm going to do it. So you got this crazy, kooky little black kid who has the problem of she has no friends because she spaz talks, meaning she talks ridiculously fast and no one can catch what she's saying. And even the stuff you do hear is just random things. Like, she goes off in like 20 different tangents in the course of 2 sentences. It's insane. And her problem is that she has such an active imagination that she ends up creating a fuck ton of imaginary friends, and it gets ridiculous, and it's like, we can't put up with all these friends, and obviously Foster's don't want to deal with them, and then you have this whole episode around her and Mac, where she's getting to know Mac. She likes Mac, but Mac is just like, you're getting on my nerves, and he spazzes out on her, and then they kind of like, he apologizes and she apologizes. You get this little cool friendship. I think they've already been shipped together. I bet you if you go online, type in Goo and Mac, you will see some shit. And I guess the one I should talk about, one of the more famous side characters that everybody knows, because of how, just because of his scene. Because Eduardo also has a scene, has like a famous quote, which is the whole "I like potatoes," and then you introduce cheese is crazy. I love cheese because of everything. Like his introduction episode is one of the best episodes of the series because of how fucking funny it is. It's like he wakes up and he's like, "Whoops, Blue, I created another imaginary friend," and then so Blue and Cheese are trying to get along, and throughout the episode you have these really ridiculous jokes thrown in. Like they're obviously supposed to be really cheesy, which is a joke in itself. They're supposed to be really cheesy because he's like, oh, so now where? Don't say it. Where? Don't say it. Where? And then Miss Foster come by and be like, Blue cheese. Ah! And then they did it again when Mac came over. And he's like, uh-oh, that means where? No cheese. Where? Cheese don't do it. Where? Mac and cheese. Oh man, it had me rolling. It was so stupid. It was awesome and stupid. And then obviously his famous line, which was fucking, I like chocolate milk. I like chocolate milk. I like potatoes. I like chocolate milk. Yes, and I like potatoes. I like chocolate milk. And I like potatoes. I like chocolate milk. I'm sorry, it's like, it was funny as hell. That's why it's one of the funniest scenes. It still makes me laugh. Because it's such a ridiculous ass scene. They didn't even bring up the potato thing that often with Eduardo. But like that scene, it was so fucking stupid. It was just... Jeez, what was it? Like, I think Matt got him some milk, chocolate milk, and then he had to walk away for a second. You know, the funny thing is, I think he's allergic to chocolate milk. So... he's like sick. He doesn't. You don't matter what he's drinking. He always says, "I like chocolate milk." I think he gave him some juice. He's like, "I like chocolate milk." Oh, let me stop. I'm being mature. It's so funny because of how stupid it is. I don't know. But anyways, the one thing about Foster's Home that kind of sucks after season 1 is for some weird reason, and I've always been curious to why they did this. I think it's because they didn't know how to make any more interesting storylines without having some character who's somewhat antagonistic. So what they did is they changed Blue's personality after the first season. Like, after the first season, Blue is a dick. Blue is a selfish, condescending dick. Like, that's his character. He's like an asshole. And it's such an aggravating change. Because there was nothing wrong with the Blue from first season or even the pilot movie. He only became aggravating when they changed his personality. And I feel like they only did that because they couldn't figure out what else to write for him. And I'm like, it's only been a season. How you run out of material for Blue? They didn't even explain why his personality changed. His personality just changes. And so a lot of the episodes are built around him being a dick. And I'm not, you know, as much as I want to say the show sucked after that, it doesn't, but I will say the episodes aren't as memorable because a lot of them are using that whole Blue as a dick theme behind it. So a lot of moments are just kind of made because Blue's a dick, and I'm like, that's disheartening to me. It's not like like I will say the first season is the best season of the series, and it's only because of Blue having his personality switch for the sake of comedy. Does that mean that there are episodes that are not funny as hell, like the one where Blue is trying to bait Mac into eating candy, and you find out why Mac can't eat candy or have anything with sugar in it because he flips the fuck out? I will say that was a funny episode because it was like you gave him cocaine. He was on some shit, and considering the fact that behind the premise of that episode was the whole Blue trying to get Mr. Harrington out of the damn house. Get him out of the house so they could throw a party to begin with. But I was like, first season Blue had just as funny episodes, like the whole thing about how Blue couldn't handle how Mr. Harrington had rules for every little fucking thing he did, and to the point in which he flipped out and he actually broke one of Mrs. Foster's busts, and he spent the entire episode trying to fix it. You know what? Fuck it. and then the kicker at the end of the episode killed it, where Mr. Harrington's like, oh yeah, we break one of those things like on a weekly basis. And he had like 1,600 of them just in there, and he's just like, yeah, whatever, we all make mistakes, and he's just like, you mother. Oh man. That's it. Like, the later episodes were fine. I mean, they're not bad. They're just, you know, it's kind of disheartening because they're based around a new character dynamic. And surprisingly, most shows couldn't handle doing that kind of switch after the first fucking season. So I give Foster's credit for that. And we got a kick-ass movie out of it for Welt, so I'm not mad. I also did, like, there's one joke I never mentioned during the pilot that happened that I thought was hilarious. They made a Powerpuff Girl reference. Where it's like, we got all different types of imaginary friends, and then you see Mojo Jojo over there on the side. You're like, what? And then the dude, and I think Frankie giving the tour was like, yeah, some kids aren't that creative. Some of them just copy whatever they see on TV. And I was like, yo, it's cool, but it's true and it's cool as shit at the same time. It's like, yeah, I'm best friends with Superman. Like, there's no variation in that character. It's just literally, I imagine myself being best friends with Superman. So, that's what it's alluding to. So I thought it was funny, even though I was like, oh, that's a nice reference. Powerpuff Girls, actually. So, I was completely cool with it. But, you know, I don't know. I thought it was cool as hell. I had to mention it because it is something really cool. But I think I'm done fanboying. And if those are curious why I haven't really mentioned too much about the later seasons, it's because the later seasons, as I said, I mean, you had the Christmas special that was that whole Blue being a dick thing. I mean, they had episodes of him being a dick, and those are the ones that stick out in my mind the most because it was like every fucking... But that was the other problem. It blended in. So, as I said, the second season isn't bad by any... The second or third season, I don't think Foster's only had like 3 or 4 seasons, if that. Foster's wasn't bad, like, in its entirety, but, you know, after the first season. The episodes just became less memorable because they spent a lot of time focusing on the Blue being a dick thing, so they have episodes in which he would renege on it. Like the one where he, like, I forget what it was, like he and Coco got into a fight or some shit, because he said, he either called her something or he said something that was really fucked up, and Coco ended up being able to lay like these ridiculous presents, and she never gave Blue one because they were in a fight. Like, I remember episodes after season 1. It's just that season 1's will be the most memorable to me. Like, I can still go back and rewatch a lot of season 1 episodes. Like the one where all of a sudden, who was it? Mac, Blue. I think it was just Mac and Blue. Maybe one other character had a crush on Frankie. I think it was before Goo was introduced, and it was just the weirdest fucking thing. Or the yard sale one. That's what it was. It was actually, I still think that was first season. Yeah. Yeah, I remember a lot more first season Foster's Home than I do afterwards. But, as I said, it's not bad, just, you know, not as good. Anyways, I'm rambling. Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. That's what I think about Foster's. I think it was a pretty good show. I will still say the first season is the best season to me. And the movies, whether it's the pilot one or the Welt one, both of them were awesome. The second season after aren't bad by any means. They're just kind of not as good because of what they had to do to Blue for reasons that I'm not 100% sure on. I just have my own speculation for. But overall, I still enjoy the hell out of that show. And I can still watch any episode. Like, it's not like the second season after is so bad I can't. But, you know, I just enjoyed the show. Anyways, thoughts, comments, leave in the comment section below. I realize saying comments and then saying leaving comments in the comment section seems really redundant because I'm saying the word comments way too fucking much. That's not the point. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I promise the next Nostalgia Rush will be on an older show, and it'll probably be a Nickelodeon show because there's a few of them a lot of you have been asking for. One maybe about a football-headed child, I don't know. Anyways, this has been the Insane Game Freak. Life's a game, play to win, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace off.